Welcome to Satsang. All my life I wanted to read and study and experience and gain information. But to make a long story short, I've done that for 27 years and I did okay, but it was in the year 2000 when, during a conflicted relationship, I realized that there are no answers to life. And I've always was looking for answers. And I studied psychology, philosophy, metaphysics, you name it. But it was so convincing, so clear, that there are no answers to life, there's only now. And when we begin to get to know now, we really understand now, then everything becomes clear. And the more you focus on now, which is the only thing that there is nothing else but now, to realize that it's something, then you become clear very fast and fears and problems begin to drop off. So now what I'd like to express is the simplicity of understanding now, and we go into how to live the now in a very simple way. Okay, first, how do we understand now? So this is where I got the pot. What is the usefulness of a pot?
Emptiness.
Very good. It's emptiness. Okay? So the rest is simply to accommodate the emptiness. Right? So you can put peas in it, you can put vegetables, you can put water and make soup or whatever you want to do with it. Okay? Now, the space in here, the emptiness in here, we can call it container. It contains. Okay, please remember this, that's very important. What you put in it is the content. Okay? Now this is where we begin to understand that you are a human being. The human is a content. The being is the container of the human. And so we can see that these two opposites is what makes spirituality so difficult to understand. And many paradoxes come out of that. So, container and content, change and changeless. You see, we go through life changing all the time. There isn't a time when change is not happening. In fact, you'll find that you've had at least 4 or 5 recyclings of your body, as we discussed last time. You had a baby body, you had a child's body, you had a teenage body, and then you had a mature body, and they're different bodies. They're actually totally different. Different values, different beliefs, everything. But because of its continuity of awareness, which is the container itself. See, what is the nature of the container? It's emptiness. What is that emptiness? It's whole. But you can spell it not H-O-L-E, you can spell it W-H-O-L-E. Whole. I feel whole. You see? So today we're going to understand something very beautiful, that emptiness is what we're searching for all the time, but do not realize it because its nature is pure being. You see? But we identify with the content, which we can't help because it's still part of what is happening. But it is not itself the emptiness. The emptiness is also known as holy. Okay? So the whole is very, very holy. When you are totally present, you're at the beach, you don't have worries, you don't have fears, you're totally present. Aren't you feeling good? You see? So many people say, I went fishing and I had a wonderful time. I didn't catch anything, but I had a wonderful time. Okay? Because you enter that total moment, which is your natural state. And your natural state is peace itself. I get so many people writing me, they say, Burt, I'd like to get peace of mind, or I'd like to achieve this. There's nothing to achieve. There's only to allow yourself to be the moment that you are. You see, because you are this moment. You know, when we think of now, people say, well, how do I enter the now? How do I remain in the now? Okay, you don't. Because you are the now itself. You see, you are the container. And then the questions come, well, what about fear and anxiety and so many problems that happen all the time? They are the content. You see, the content of the container, within the container. The container itself, the very nature of container is just space, nothingness. There's no way that the mind in figuring out can understand it, but your heart can feel it, because we've all had glimpses, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So when we go into the very nature of this container, which is the holy state of you, which is the true state of you, you see, you begin to experience fearlessness. You begin to experience because the qualities of pure feeling, which is the qualities of the whole, which is the quality of that emptiness, are not something. For example, you say, I'm afraid. There's always a fear of something, right? When you say you're afraid of something. There's always something that you're afraid of. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay? If you're having problem and anxiety, it's because you're thinking about something and you don't know how it's going to turn out, right? Future, regret, past. But in the now, there's love and happiness and peace. Why? Because these things do not rely on something. Okay? They don't rely on anything. They are themselves there the moment we allow it. How do you find out that the now is what you want? How do you know that the now is all that you are at your best? Again, we discussed last time, the best way to find out is this. If you're suffering now, if you have a problem now, stop. Ask yourself, how would I prefer to feel instead of this anxiety? And you'll always say, I want to feel whole, I want to feel complete, I want to be happy, I want to feel love, I want to be. You see? Always. Everybody will say this. The 7 billion human beings on this earth, all they prefer is the qualities of now. But we don't think that these qualities are us. We think we're going to achieve them. You cannot achieve happiness. Happiness is when there is an absence of self. That you are so in love, not necessarily with someone, with something. Doesn't matter. You're just in love. You see? That you forget yourself. When you forget yourself, you're very happy. As a matter of fact, you know, people ask, how does a person progress spiritually? Do they do it through meditation? Do they do it through some practice? Do they do it through reading? No, they do it by really getting to know who they are in this moment. Because when you start getting to know who you are in this moment, you fall in love. You know, the Course in Miracles, which a teaching which I respect highly, it calls it Holy Spirit. Again, holy, because it is the emptiness, and it is spirit, right? Because it is not a something. It is the very nothingness itself. And yet when we think of nothingness, it scares us. Because we think we are nothing. But the most beautiful thing to realize is that you are nothing. Because you are everything. Do you see the dichotomy here? See, because in the now, dichotomies exist. Change, changeless. Everything is changing. Look at everything now, everything. It includes the camera. It includes everything that you see. Everything is a content. Where is the container, which is now? All you say is, It's now, because it is choiceless. It now has no beginning and now has no exit. You see? So everything is a content within the container of now. Now, what was I going to say next? Yeah. So we're talking about change. Now, everything changes. Nothing stands still. And then people think that they are growing old and they're going to die because we identify with the body. But the truth is, you cannot die because you never existed. No, this is so true. I'm not trying to because you see, the very nature of being is. You see, is. You know that word is? The most powerful word that you can ever be. The mind cannot understand it. But in the heart, in the very center of you, you can feel it. That is the truth of now. And when you surrender to that now, when you just allow yourself to be that now, you begin to feel at peace. That peace is you. But something else happens within that peace. What is peace? Peace is the realization that nothing can happen to you. There was never a time when you were born, there's never a time when you will die. Your body, yes. Your body is changing all the time. How do we know this? You might say, Burt, but I don't know this. But you can know it. Because the very fact that you can see change means you are changeless. Are you understanding me? The fact that you can see change means you are changeless. Okay, you are in a car, and both cars are moving at the same time. Right? So you look at the driver of the other car, you're both moving together. You know you're moving, but you don't seem to be changing or moving because you're moving at the same pace. You see what I mean? So how can you know that there is change? You become still and you watch the car going by and you say, yeah. But the only way that you can observe change is when you become still, changeless. Got it? So in the same way that when a baby body and a child's body and a teenage body and a mature body and an old body is what happens in it. That there's biological change because of the recycling. You see, time is a constant circle. Constant circle. Nothing is actually happening. It is the earth rotating around the sun and creating night and day, season, summer, winter, autumn, etc., etc. You see? So everything is changed. The same the clock. The clock, it has from 12 and then goes back to 12. You see? So here we are midnight, and then noon, and then you go start over again, and blah, blah, blah. See, over and over. So life is a constant repetition, and this constant repetition creates change within it. Everything changes. It is true that when you live in the now, you slow down aging. It is true. You slow down, change doesn't happen as fast because you're more present. So when you're more present, you're not living in the past in your mind. When you live in the past in your mind, you age very fast. You see, because the cells of the body, did you know that the body doesn't have a mind of its own? The body follows everything that the mind tells it. And if you study the law of attraction, or any law actually, and it's like, you will find that the mind determines everything. And we're talking about universal mind. You see? So, okay, change, changeless, human being. You see, the human being, for example, the human is always becoming, always seeking, always wanting, always striving. See, but then we stop and ask, what is it seeking all the time? And now here is a kick in the pants, right there. It's always seeking yourself. And who is myself? You see, who is myself? And then he says, gee, I don't know. You see? You are the one who is aware. And that awareness itself is the holiness of you. You see, right now you're all aware. Right? But it is not you who's aware. It is awareness working through you as you. Awareness is. There are 7 billion humans on this earth, but there is only one being. You see? And we're all connected. We're all connected. We're all one. And that's called love. See, when you feel that connection, immediately you begin to fall in love. Whether it's a flower, whether it's an animal, whether it's another human being, or it's just you. You just feel this love because the very nature of being, the very nature of is love. You see? I remember I used to ask myself, what makes the earth rotate around the sun in such perfection? Because if it goes out of balance even a few inches, it can upset the whole earth, right? So, so everything, the earth is hurtling through space at about 20 miles per second, isn't it? Moving at a tremendous rate, and yet we walk solid on the earth. See, and we never question it. And then we say because of gravity, but what is gravity? You see? It's this intelligence, this electromagnetic energy that is maintaining it all. Everything is here and now. Someone asked me, they said when I sent an email to Australia and I had all my windows closed, and I said, I wondered, how did it go through my space to go to Australia, the email? And I said, because it never left now. It doesn't travel. The email doesn't travel. It doesn't go anyplace. It is here. It is always here. You see? But now we are experiencing that by understanding now, even time and space are not as real as much as we thought. For example, I'm going to ask you a question. If a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound?
No.
Yes.
You say it makes a sound?
Sure.
Okay, who says it makes a sound? Okay. Okay. Now I'd like you to listen very carefully. Now, this is fact. Sounds are all around us. In this room, if we were to hear the sound waves that are happening, our bodies could not contain it. Okay? How do you know that there are sounds now? Very easy. Take up your cell phone and talk to somebody 100 miles away. And it's as if he's right here, because he is here.
But sound is only for the listener.
The sound, you have to have a receptor to get to the sound. See, right now technology is helping us to get in touch with energies we weren't even aware of before. Sending email around the world. I mean, that is such an incredible advance. You see? And then we have Skyping. I Skype. I have clients all over the world. I'm Skyping them. That's my Skyping thing. And it's just like they're next door. I get them from Australia, Germany, Africa. You see, everywhere from around the world. And we have sessions and we're very close friends. I've made friends with all colors, all nationalities. And it's just wonderful. And they are in my living room. But are they really there? You see, if they're in Germany and I'm talking to them on a Saturday, it's a Sunday in Germany. So, as far as time is concerned, it's totally distorted. It doesn't make sense. The space is immense, but the now is the same. You see? So it defies time and space. Okay? And then we have, the internet is another thing, part of, you have a radio, a sophisticated radio. You can turn it to different countries. Why? Because all the sounds are here. But if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, it doesn't make a sound, because there are no sounds until your auditory nerves pick it up. Or you have some technological apparatus in which you can pick that sound up. But other than that, there is no sound. To us right now it's very quiet, isn't it? But everything is happening now. You see? It's mind-boggling. So,
the chipmunk in the forest might take a jump, though. When the tree falls, he may jump. You may hear it.
yes, because he has receptors. You see? Right. He's there, and so when it falls, he hears the sound. Right. But if there's no one to hear it, there is no sound unless there is a reception of that sound. Unless there is some apparatus in which you can perceive it. Now you might say, but then you mean sounds are not happening? Yes, everything is happening already. Everything is now already complete. But we need the tools to make it possible. You see? So now by tools, of course, we need not only the senses, but even technological ways. Now we can talk about opposites. Now the now always contains opposites. The container and the content. Human and being. Love and fear. Okay? So, see, all emotions can be wrapped up into two. All known human emotions. Either it's love-based or it's fear-based. So if we talk anxiety or regret or shame or whatever, it's all fear-based. If you forget yourself, if at the moment you're totally present, your mind is not active at all, except if you want to think creatively, of course, that's something else. And you're totally in the present, what is happening is that there is love in you. And this is why we love to do what we love to do. Because we like the feeling of being in love. You love your work, chances are you're happy most of the time, especially when you're doing the work you love. If you do a painting and you love painting, at the moment of creation there is no you, there is just the painting. When you're in love with someone, you look at them at that moment of connection, there is only one of you. You're totally absorbed, you're totally now. That is what it means to be in the now. In the now there is wholeness, there is totality, there is completion. So when we hear words like we read words, spiritual words, and we begin to feel the great contradiction between them. You know, I think Jesus made a comment one time, and I forget now. He says, when you die to yourself, you find yourself. Something like that. Okay? And it sounds contradictory. But what is meant is that when the ego, which is constantly living in the past and future, and it's never present, you see, when that dies, all that's left is you. And that you that's left is a holy you. Is the holiness of you. Is the perfection of you. See? Okay. So, is that clear? Are there any questions about that before we go into living more now?
Yeah. Your analogy, Burt, of the pot is so great for what you're talking about. And
yes.
Even just what you're saying now about the body, thinking you are the pot and not
yeah. Now, is the emptiness inside your body or outside it?
It's outside.
Very good. The spirit you are, the awareness you are, is not inside you. The body is inside it. You see? And many people don't understand that. But when you see container and content, you will begin to see that all you are is the container. You are the container. Therefore, everything that you see is contained in you. Why? Because you're seeing it, you're experiencing it, you're aware. There's nothing outside of you. Nothing.
So then might you go on to say that whatever you hear out there in the world is what you're in tune to, right? And what I mean by here is the drama, the whatever situation, right?
You focus, you see, you become, because again, we have to go back to the mind. See, container and content are ever together, okay? All the time. This is, when we think of now, we say, oh, now, and we equate it with what we are seeing and experiencing. But it's much more than that. You are the container. What you're seeing and experiencing is the content within the space called now. Okay, so what were you saying again?
Well, I guess if something triggers you out there, it's what you're
focused on.
Yeah, what you're needing to hear.
What you're needing to hear. Very good. See, life is constantly teaching us moment to moment. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so when we are not ready to learn something, either because we want to avoid it, we don't want to face it, there's something that's hurting us, then it will happen to us. Either through a relationship, through the next door neighbor, through your boss, it doesn't matter. It will happen to you because you have to meet it. Okay? Now when you meet it, then you've learned your lesson and it won't happen again. But something else will happen for what else you need to learn. You see? When people keep saying, oh, Burt, what's wrong? Everybody's angry around me. And I'll say, there's a lot of anger in you. You see? Like many people are emailing me every day and they might not want to hear what I have to say, but it is the truth. And so whatever you're experiencing is what you are experiencing inside you. And when you face it and when you look at it, what happens? The ego says, bad boy, bad girl, you shouldn't. See, that's called guilt, which exacerbates it, makes it even worse. See, the point is to keep loving yourself no matter what happens. So if you catch yourself doing something that is not quite nice, say, thank you for making me aware of it. You see? And you forgive it, and you move on. And you learn. But if you feel bad for feeling bad, then you feel better. You see? And it keeps on escalating. Why? Because negativity feeds on itself. And it keeps on feeding more and more and more. There, you see? You see, I was right. You see, they hate me. They hate me. We develop paranoia. And we do not realize that we're creating it all. You see? Why? Again, because the same thing. You are a space. You are the awareness now. And the world that you experience is not real. It is made up in your mind. Everybody experiences a different world. Everybody. And people who listen to the news every day are probably in a mess of anxiety. You see? Because you start believing it all. But what if the news was about good news? That doesn't make news, right? I mean,
Nobody listens.
Nobody would listen, right? If the news came up, oh, today, Mike and Mary had a great picnic, had a wonderful time. It's in the news, right? Nobody is interested in that. People are interested who killed who cheated on whom. Why do we love that? Why do we enjoy negativity?
It strengthens the small you, for one thing.
That's right. But why do we want to strengthen the small you, the ego? Why do we want to strengthen it?
That's how it thrives on that energy. That's how it exists.
That's right. Because the moment a human was born, it was born with survival instinct. The need to survive, which is okay. But the love in there is always crying out for love. The child is craving the mother's touch, you see? So though that's the natural thing, that's the nature of the child. Now if the mother takes care of the child and loves the child, then the child gets to know what love is. But if the child has never known love in its childhood, then it feeds back on its own negative reaction. And it keeps on seeing, as it grows up and goes out into the world, it goes in its defensive, protective mode, which is a hell of a life, really. And it's a terrible way to live, but many people are living like that. they live in fear most of the time. In fact, if you take 100 people in front of you, you'd say that 95% are living in fear all the time. See, now when we talk about fear, it could be anything. See, but fear can become such a habit, so addictive, that we don't even know it's there. Like fear of death, fear of illness, fear of catching germs, somebody sneezing in your face, or or you're very careful not to eat the wrong thing. Now, it's good to eat right things and exercise. These are wonderful. But what happens is you become so conscious of it that if you don't, it becomes an addiction almost. That if you don't do it, you figure, oh, I've done something wrong now. You see? Something is going to happen. So you become so aware, just like the woman who's very conscious of her beauty. She puts on a lot of makeup, she just stretches her skin, looks in the mirror all the time. Isn't that fear? Of course it is. Fear of growing old. You see? If a person is health conscious, they're afraid of sickness. They're afraid of being sick. You see? To be free is what spirituality is about. To be free of everything. Because really it doesn't matter. You're always here. You're always going to be here. And you're going to be even more alive as you expand in your awareness. So there are 3 ways in which we can live now. These 3 ways is not something you do, but something you understand. And remember, what we're talking about is not information. Okay? It is something that your heart knows and understands. So when you listen with that in mind, because nothing is being said as information, but is being said as, of course, it's obvious. Okay, there are 3 ways to live now. One is called now is choiceless. You don't have choice about now. You might be living in the past all the time in your mind, but even while you're living in the past and killing yourself, you're still doing it now. You see? Because remember that the container contains everything in it. The content can be the past and the future. Everything is contained now. Albert Einstein said that. He says everything is happening now. Everything that has happened to you, everything that's going to happen to you is already present now. This is something very hard for the mind to understand, but we can begin to perceive it. So, now is choiceless. There's never a time when now began. Now, when the earth was forming, before a human trotted the earth, now was always there. It is called the causeless cause, the beginningless beginning. How do we know there is a beginningless beginning? Because we're here. Something had begun it, and that which began it had no beginning because... Do you understand? Right.
It's always here.
It's always here. Right. And then you'll find, as you grow and expand in your awareness, is that, what is it? That we're talking about awareness itself. That basic intelligence, that divine intelligence. Awareness. Awareness has no beginning, and it has no end. And so, there is no beginning or end to you. Not to the body. Because, see, another thing too, what we call content is also consciousness. The awareness and consciousness. Awareness can be aware of consciousness. Consciousness is the content. Your thoughts, your feelings, your personality, everything about you is made up of consciousness. Okay? Awareness is. Okay? Do not ever try to figure out what awareness is. There's no way that you can understand it. But you begin to realize it. And through awareness you can become aware of your own consciousness. But the two are content and container. They are together all the time. They're never separate. Consciousness and content. So even death itself does not happen because you're always conscious. So now is choiceless. Now the moment you say to yourself, now is choiceless, and really believe it, what starts to happen? That if you're caught in the past or you're caught in the future, oh, I wonder what's going to happen, oh my God, you know, am I going to die or whatever? You become aware that meeting it now, being aware of it right now, is the only way to bring healing. And this is how healing happens, by bringing it totally in the moment and facing it. When you face it, you begin to transcend its limitations. The second one is responsibility. The responsibility to life. To meet every moment as it is. That if you're judging it wrong, then you're going to suffer the wrong, because you saw it as wrong. Naturally. You manifest your world, you manifest what you are aware of. So the second one is that you are responsible every moment. Now that sounds like it's a big job. Excuse me. Responsibility is the ability to respond to the moment. So how do you respond to the moment? You see? Suppose you're feeling anxious right now. How do you respond to it? Allow it, yes. You see, the point is to allow it to move. Give it space to express itself. But then you might start feeling bad for feeling bad, right? Because that's the natural process of the ego. So by allowing fully, you respond to it by asking the question, which I have found extremely effective. And when I do sessions with people on Skype, I always tell them to do this. Ask yourself, how do I prefer to feel instead of this negativity? And you'll always, always, always say, I want to feel better than this. I want to feel happier. You see? I want to feel gooder. The reason is because in your nature you are that already. But then what happens is the mind is so caught in time, is so not in the moment, that it says, oh yes, I want to be happy. I wonder when this is going to be. You see? And the point is to be responsibility, ability to respond. Claim it now. And it's not very difficult to be. Yes?
I just wonder, is the observer the moment?
The moment. The observer is the awareness that you are. It's the witness. It's the one that's watching the change. You see?
To stand back and observe the whatever's happening.
Yeah, the point is to observe it in an awareness without the thought about it, without attachment. So, for example, right now, think of a banana, okay? Think of it, banana. Picture a banana in your mind. Just picture it. Okay, now you're picturing a banana, right? Okay, stop. Now, where is it?
I eat it.
Okay, so you find that the moment you look at it, you conjure it up, and the thought becomes very real. You know, when you dream at night, it can feel very, very real, and even the body reacts to what you're dreaming. You know, it feels very real. So what is going on in your mind feels very real, but the moment you stop and become aware. See, at night when we're dreaming, there is no capacity to be aware of it. You see, we are awareness, that's why we are dreaming, that's why dreaming is taking place, but it's all content. But we cannot stand back and observe. See, at this point, when we are told, be aware, we can actually stop and be aware. And the moment you make yourself aware, every thought that you are thinking disappears. Truly. If you really look at it detached. See, that is the point. Because if you make a judgment, and if you say, oh, but this is wrong and I shouldn't get rid of it, remember another thing too. What is the greatest malady of humanity? It's called guilt. Guilt is like crazy glue, it sticks to your finger and then you grab it, change it, and it sticks to the other fingers. So it just won't let go. But so guilt builds on guilt. Some people say, when I feel guilty, how do I get rid of it? And then they come to a point where they say, Burt, something happened and I didn't feel guilty. But then I felt guilty for not feeling guilty. You see? So this vicious circle is going on all the time. That is the nature of the ego. It is such a conniving thing, so manipulative. But if you understand it, if you understand, what is ego? Because sometimes when we talk about it, it feels as if it's real.
Well, it's like, for instance, the pot, thinking it's what it is.
Yeah, the pot thinking that it's the content that was in it, instead of seeing itself as the emptiness, you mean, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what the ego is. The ego, we can put it in spiritual term, the ego is that part in us that separates itself from God. You see? Now, when we talked about now, and I was talking about all the time, where is God in that? Everywhere, isn't it? That's all we're talking about. Because the now is God. It's not somebody out there. And who are you? God. One time there was a quote. It was just beautiful. I think it's the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus. Jesus confided to a disciple, and he said, no, the disciple asked Jesus, he said, did you really make that blind see? Was it really you who healed? And Jesus said, no, the Father in me that does these things. The Father, of course, is the now, the energy, the awareness. And then he said, why don't you tell these people that their sinning is not real? It's all in their minds. It is, and that they are really God, that they are really holy. And he said, if you do that, you have to be dangerous of your body. It would be like blasphemy. You see? Because in the 2,000 years ago, when Jesus walked the earth, if he told the truth, he talked in parables, because the people were not ready to understand what we are starting to understand now. You see? So if he were to say, I am God, you are God, let's crucify him. Who does he think he is? See, but the truth is, God is oneness. There is nothing outside of God. The love, God is love, you see? Love itself. When you feel love, you are feeling God. When you are laughing with your heart, totally joyous, you are in the presence of God. You are God at that moment. You see? That is the perfection of the moment. So, that's your responsibility, is to see that whatever is happening, it is a content, but you are the container. Use the container's premise, which is of course awareness, and look at what is happening. For example, a fear is taking place in me. And the more we indulge in that fear, the more it takes over the body. Sensations go over the body. And you begin to feel it. It starts to take over. But if you were at the moment of its inception and says, where is the fear? You stop, become very, very still. Where is the fear? And you find there's nothing there. When you start seeing that there's nothing there, really, a content is just a content that comes and goes, comes and goes. The difference between the container and the content is the container never changes. Never. It always is for eternity. The content is changing all the time. So the content in reality is not really as real as we think it is. It is constantly changing. But the one thing that never changes is the container. So that's your responsibility, is to keep seeing that what you really want more than anything is yourself. And yourself are all the qualities of the now, which is the purity of the now, the essence of the now, the love of the now. You see, the moment. Not love of the now, love which is the now, in other words. Okay? And the last one is forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is not saying, I forgive. But it is seeing from responsibility that there is nothing to forgive. That's what forgiveness is. So, because some people says, but I forgave, but I cannot forget. You know, you said that last time. See, forgiveness is a total annihilation of that idea by seeing that there's nothing to forgive. You see? Because there's nothing there. So, when you follow these three, which are all really one, now is choiceless, which is saying love is choiceless, truth is choiceless, same thing. You know, 2, responsibility, and 3 is forgiveness. So, yeah, forgiveness. Are there any questions about forgiveness? Because what we need to do is to forgive, and every time we forgive, see, something starts to happen within us. Healing starts to take place.
So, Bert, is it that it's not to make it real? Just,
yeah, to see it, yeah, not to make it real, because you see, we want to make things real.
yeah.
And when we want to make things real, we become possessed by them. For example, you see, money is a beautiful thing. It's nice to have money. See, but we make it very real. So the more we have, the more we want. And we make it so real that it owns us. You see, and then it comes into greed. It goes into greed, and now you lost your life. What's the point? I mean, you could be a billionaire if you haven't got peace of mind, if you haven't got love in your heart. What is the point? You see, so this is what happens. The moment you make something real, it owns you. And the same with everything. See, if you make your body real, you begin to forget that you're a spiritual essence. You are an energy. You are this now moment. You see? And the moment you lose touch with that, you begin to feel a hole inside you. An emptiness. Not the emptiness of the pot. The emptiness, the pain, you see, that comes when you're not in touch with who you are. And most people are not in touch with who they are. Yeah.
Even what you're explaining is self-forgiveness.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
is the only forgiveness.
The only real forgiveness there is self-forgiveness.
For believing what you thought
Yeah.
was real.
Yeah. You see, there's another thing too. We can discuss it next time you come, but because it's a little bit involved. But here is something that when you realize it, peace will come to you. Okay? The script is already written. That's quite something to realize. But that is something when you talk about, there's a lot of, you know, back and forth. Like most people say, okay, if the script is written, then what's the point of doing anything? You see? The script is written because everything is a cycle. Everything is a circle, like the earth rotating around the sun. Everything is constantly going, moving in the same direction, repetition. It's repeating. This life that you're living now, you've already lived it. You see? So, but the point is, you might say, but I don't need to do anything, and then you give up. But the moment you give up saying, I don't care, the moment you say, I don't care anymore, right? So what? Okay? What happens? You lose joy. You lose the happiness of life. You lose zest. You lose energy. And the moment you do, the script that has been written, maybe it contains cancer in it, maybe some car accident in it, maybe it contains all these things that are going to happen. But if you forgive yourself, see, don't take my word for it, do your own inner exploration, because you come to know these. There's nothing that I'm saying that I haven't realized. Okay? So this I know for a fact. When you start forgiving yourself, you actually collapse time in your favor. Gary Renard wrote something in the book, Disappearance of the Universe. One time he went to a movie, and he didn't know which movie to go to, so one day he went to a movie that he hated. And he spent 2 hours, and he started complaining, blah, 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 that I went to this movie. And then, if you read the Disappearance of... Anybody has seen the Disappearance of the Universe? Read it? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, you know that he had ascended masters talking to him, right? They were teachers. Okay. So they told him, they said, it had to happen that way, he said, because you have learned through forgiveness. He said, you chose that bad movie so that you get out at a time when you won't be in a very serious car accident. If you didn't forgive yourself from what you had done before, what happened is you would have gone in that movie, got out, and got into that accident, very serious accident. You see? But it saved you by collapsing time. So every time you forgive yourself, you are purifying your future, so to speak. You see? And this is the wonderful thing, is to love all the time, to love. And love is something that we all want, right? Love is something that is the only thing that can keep us happy. Why? Because love doesn't exist. It's the same with peace. Peace doesn't exist. Joy doesn't exist. It is not an emotion. It is. It's an isness. You see? So what we're talking about is that this space, which is the reality, which never changes, doesn't exist. It is existence itself. Do you understand the difference? You see? A tree exists. An animal exists. Nature exists because there's existence. But existence itself, per se, by itself, before it has an existing thing, it doesn't exist. You see? It always is, right. And because it always is, it's oneness. And because it's one, then existence and non-existence are one in it. Container and content are one. You see? So when you begin to realize that you are the container, then everything that you see is part of your container.